They like to say it every year in their economic survey. Mali is the poorest country. Niger is the poorest country. We are rated among the last. Very well, if we are as poor as they say, but when the time comes to take our responsibility, we ask these masters to leave the place. Why don't they want to leave? When we take the case of Niger, for more than 40 years, some countries have been exploiting uranium to produce energy in their home. From Ottawa to Paris, the street it is light, but Niger it is darkness that is served to us. When you go to our state, our soil appears on all sides to search the precious metal such as gold, but often there is not even the slightest accessible road to reach the area where they exploit gold.
Why does the West want to keep working with poor nations? The truth is that poor nations are the best targets for the West. The West doesn't look for partners, it looks for victims. The West exploits these countries, destroying them completely while taking their resources. It all starts with labeling them as poor. This way, when the West collaborates, it appears to be helping. But how many nations has the West helped? If the West is truly helping, why do most of Niger's resources go to France instead of being used in Niger? This exploitation seems justified now, but it all starts with calling African nations poor. But if they are so poor, why can't the West give up on them? What's the real story? Let's find out. The narrative of endless poverty often paints Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso as desolate and economically stationary countries. This portrayal raises a critical question that Traore recently asked. If these nations are as poor as they are depicted, why do Western powers remain deeply invested in their affairs? At first glance, the persistent presence of Western interests in these regions seems paradoxical. However, a closer examination reveals a complex interplay of natural wealth, historical exploitation, and geopolitical actions. So, let's understand the reality behind the situation.
I voted for the report also. I'd like to compliment my left colleagues who acted as rapporteurs. There's a lot of really good stuff in it about safeguarding food sovereignty, preventing deforestation and degradation, and many more issues. But the truth is, it's a million miles from the reality of EU-Africa trade policy as it exists now, because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism.
Starting with, are Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso truly among the poorest countries in the world? Despite their abundant natural resources, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso consistently rank among the poorest countries globally. According to the UNDP Human Development Index, Mali ranks 179th out of 187 countries, with 2/3 of its population living on less than $2 a day. Niger is officially the world's poorest country, with about 39% of its population living in extreme poverty as of 2015. Burkina Faso also faces high poverty rates, with extreme poverty affecting up to 34% of its population in various regions. These countries grapple with chronic poverty, food insecurity, rapid population growth, and the adverse effects of climate change. Rural areas, in particular, suffer from these hardships, further entrenching the cycle of poverty. In Mali, the rural economy is predominantly agricultural, yet it faces significant challenges such as limited access to markets, insufficient infrastructure, and climatic variability that affects agricultural productivity. Similarly, Niger's economy heavily relies on subsistence farming and livestock, which are highly susceptible to environmental changes and market fluctuations. Burkina Faso, despite having a diversified agricultural sector, still struggles with food security issues due to periodic droughts and poor agricultural practices. These economic challenges are compounded by political instability and conflict. Mali has experienced ongoing insurgencies and political turmoil, which further hinder economic development and exacerbate poverty. Niger faces similar issues with extremist groups operating in its borders, leading to insecurity that disrupts daily life and economic activities. Burkina Faso, too, is grappling with internal conflicts and terrorism, which detract from development efforts and contribute to the overall climate of poverty. Despite these stark realities, there is an undeniable wealth of natural resources in these countries that should, in theory, offer a pathway out of poverty. However, the extraction and management of these resources have historically been and continue to be dominated by foreign interests. This creates a paradox where countries rich in resources remain economically poor. The profits from resource extraction are often repatriated, leaving little benefit for the local economies. This dynamic perpetuates poverty and underdevelopment, as the wealth generated from natural resources does not contribute to broader economic growth or infrastructure improvements. So, if poverty is so pervasive, what then draws Western interests to these seemingly broken lands? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now.
Perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself. It's portrayed as a poor continent, but actually it's the richest. It's just that the people there are denied the fruits of their land and their labour by unequal economic relations, by unfair trade rules, by illicit capital flights into the Western banks, and by multinational corporations allowed off the leash by Washington, London and Brussels.
The true wealth of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso lies beneath their surface, in the form of extensive mineral resources. Mali is a top African gold producer, with its gold mining sector attracting significant foreign investment. Besides gold, Mali has reserves of bauxite, limestone, and phosphate. Niger holds substantial uranium deposits, ranking as one of the world's top producers, crucial for nuclear energy. Additionally, Niger has deposits of gold, coal, and oil. Burkina Faso, known for its burgeoning gold mining industry, is one of Africa's fastest-growing gold producers, with several large-scale mines in operation. In addition to minerals, these countries have agricultural potential. The Niger River provides fertile land in Mali, enabling the cultivation of rice, millet, and cotton. Niger, despite facing desertification challenges, has potential in livestock and crop production, particularly in its southern regions. Burkina Faso's agriculture sector employs a significant portion of its population and produces vital crops like cotton, cereals, and livestock. The presence of these resources indicates substantial economic potential. Moreover, the agricultural sector in these countries, though underdeveloped, holds significant promise. For instance, improved irrigation techniques and sustainable farming practices could drastically increase productivity in Mali. In Niger, initiatives to combat desertification and enhance soil fertility are crucial for agricultural growth. Burkina Faso's focus on organic farming and agroforestry presents opportunities for sustainable agricultural development. Beyond agriculture and minerals, these countries also possess other valuable resources. Mali, for example, has significant hydroelectric potential due to its river systems. Niger's oil reserves, though not as large as its uranium deposits, still offer economic opportunities. Burkina Faso's diverse ecosystems, from savannas to forests, provide resources for ecotourism and conservation efforts. The cultural and historical richness of these nations adds another layer of potential wealth. Mali, with its ancient cities like Timbuktu and Djenné, has a cultural heritage that attracts global interest. Niger's diverse ethnic groups and traditions offer unique cultural experiences. Burkina Faso's vibrant art scene, including its renowned film festival, FESPACO, showcases the nation's creative potential. These resources, if managed properly, could provide a significant boost to the economies of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. However, the current extraction processes often benefit foreign companies more than local populations. There is a pressing need for policies that ensure fair distribution of wealth generated from these resources. So, with such wealth, why do these nations remain impoverished, and how do historical factors play into this dynamic? The exploitation of West Africa's resources has deep roots in the colonial era, where European powers extracted resources with little regard for local populations. This legacy established patterns of resource extraction that persist today, benefiting foreign corporations and local elites rather than the broader population. The economies of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are heavily reliant on the export of primary commodities, reflecting a colonial-era extractivist model. This model has marginalized them in global trade, leading to economic volatility and limited development opportunities. Despite their resource wealth, these countries remain trapped in a cycle of dependency and underdevelopment. Colonial powers implemented economic systems designed to extract maximum value from local resources, while investing minimally in local infrastructure or human capital. This historical context has had long-lasting effects, including inadequate infrastructure, weak industrial bases, and limited capacity for value-added production. The focus on raw material exports has left these countries vulnerable to global market fluctuations and price volatility. Additionally, the colonial legacy includes social and political structures that continue to affect these nations. The arbitrary borders drawn by colonial powers have led to ethnic tensions and conflicts, which disrupt economic activities and development efforts. The political systems, often characterized by corruption and instability, can be traced back to colonial governance practices that prioritized control over development. Modern economic policies and international agreements often perpetuate these colonial-era economic structures. For example, trade agreements and investment treaties frequently favor foreign investors and multinational corporations over local businesses. This imbalance restricts the ability of these countries to develop robust, diversified economies. The dominance of foreign companies in key industries means that much of the profit from resource extraction is repatriated rather than reinvested locally. Efforts to break free from this legacy have been met with significant challenges. Attempts to nationalize industries or renegotiate terms with foreign companies often face strong resistance from powerful international actors. Moreover, the debt burdens incurred by these nations, often as a result of colonial exploitation, continue to constrain their economic policies and development initiatives. The social impact of this colonial legacy is also profound. Education systems in these countries were initially designed to serve the colonial administration, resulting in a mismatch between the skills taught and the needs of the local economies. Health systems were similarly neglected, leading to poor health outcomes that further hindered economic productivity. Now the question is, beyond historical legacies, what are the contemporary geopolitical interests driving Western involvement? The Sahel region, including Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, holds significant geopolitical importance due to its strategic resources. The West's interest in the region is driven by the need to secure access to valuable minerals and energy resources. Military interventions and support for local regimes that align with their resource extraction goals are common manifestations of these interests. Western military presence in the region, often justified by the need to combat violent groups or stabilize governments, has been criticized as a means to secure access to these resources. The presence of Western military bases and missions, such as the French military operation Barkhane and U.S. drone bases, indicates the strategic importance of the region. These operations are ostensibly aimed at countering terrorism, but also serve to protect Western economic interests. For example, Niger's uranium mines are crucial for France's nuclear energy program, making stability in the region a priority for French geopolitical strategy. Furthermore, international aid and development programs often come with strings attached, ensuring that Western countries maintain influence over local economies and political decisions. These programs can create dependencies that limit the ability of these nations to pursue independent development paths. The geopolitical competition for resources also involves other global powers, such as China, which adds complexity to the region's dynamics. Additionally, the strategic location of these countries makes them important for regional security and migration control. The Sahel is a transit route for migrants heading to Europe, and Western powers have a vested interest in controlling migration flows. This has led to increased military and financial support for border security and anti-trafficking initiatives in these countries, further entrenching Western influence. The narrative of combating terrorism and promoting security often masks the underlying economic motives. By framing their involvement in terms of security, Western powers can justify their presence and interventions. However, this approach can exacerbate local conflicts and instability, as military solutions do not address the underlying socio-economic issues. The environmental impact of resource extraction also plays a role in geopolitical interests. The degradation of land and water resources can lead to conflicts over scarce resources, further destabilizing the region. Western powers often position themselves as mediators in these conflicts, but their primary interest lies in maintaining access to resources. Can we say that African nations are poor because of the West, and that the West stays there to ensure they remain poor while continuing to exploit them? The exploitation of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso by Western powers has significant implications for their development. The control over resource extraction processes by foreign companies means that profits are often repatriated, leaving little benefit for the local economies. This dynamic perpetuates poverty and underdevelopment, as the wealth generated from natural resources does not contribute to broader economic growth or infrastructure improvements. The focus on raw material exports leads to a lack of diversification in these economies, making them vulnerable to global market fluctuations. This economic fragility is compounded by inadequate infrastructure, which hinders industrialization and limits access to markets. The revenues from resource extraction are often insufficient to fund essential public services such as education, healthcare, and transportation. Additionally, the environmental degradation caused by intensive mining and agriculture further exacerbates poverty and underdevelopment. In Mali, gold mining has led to significant environmental damage, affecting water resources and agricultural land. In Niger, uranium mining has resulted in radioactive contamination, posing serious health risks to local communities. Burkina Faso faces deforestation and soil degradation due to unsustainable farming practices. This exploitation ensures that these nations remain trapped in a cycle of poverty and dependency. Western powers maintain a significant presence in the region under the guise of humanitarian aid or security assistance, but the primary motive remains access to and control over valuable resources. The wealth generated from these resources often benefits foreign corporations and local elites, while the broader population continues to suffer from poverty and lack of development. The continuous extraction of resources without substantial reinvestment in local economies has long-term detrimental effects. It prevents the establishment of robust, diversified economies capable of sustaining growth and improving living standards. The cycle of exploitation and underdevelopment thus becomes self-perpetuating, with Western powers playing a central role in maintaining this status quo. So, in the end, the portrayal of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso as poor and underdeveloped serves to justify continued Western intervention and control. While these nations face significant challenges, they also possess valuable resources and potential for growth. The Western interest in these countries is driven by the desire to exploit their resources rather than genuine humanitarian concern. This statement was said by Traore. So does this mean Africa is confronting the West and ready for change? Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, has indeed been vocal about the exploitative relationship between Africa and the West. His statements highlight a growing sentiment among African leaders and citizens who are increasingly aware of and resistant to the continued economic exploitation and political interference by Western powers. This shift in rhetoric and action suggests that Africa is not only confronting the West, but also gearing up for significant changes. Leaders like Traore are becoming more prominent across the continent, advocating for greater sovereignty and control over their country's resources. These leaders are not afraid to publicly denounce Western exploitation and call for new models of engagement that prioritize African interests. African nations are increasingly collaborating to address common issues and reduce dependency on Western aid and investment. Initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, aim to boost intra-African trade and economic integration, fostering a collective economic strength that can stand more independently from Western influence. There is a growing trend of resource nationalism, where countries are seeking to assert greater control over their natural resources. This includes renegotiating contracts with foreign corporations, increasing local ownership and participation in resource extraction industries, and implementing policies that ensure a fairer distribution of wealth generated from these resources. African countries are also increasingly looking beyond traditional Western partners to diversify their international relationships. This includes strengthening ties with emerging powers like China, India, and Russia, as well as exploring South-South cooperation. These diversified partnerships can reduce dependency on the West and offer alternative avenues for development. Across Africa, there are numerous grassroots movements advocating for economic justice, environmental sustainability, and political reform. These movements are driven by a younger, more politically aware population that demands accountability from both their own governments and foreign powers. Some African nations are implementing economic reforms aimed at fostering sustainable development. These include efforts to improve governance, reduce corruption, invest in infrastructure, and promote education and healthcare. Such reforms are critical for creating the conditions necessary for long-term economic growth and stability. Africa is also experiencing a technological revolution, with increasing access to mobile technology, the internet, and digital finance. This technological advancement is empowering entrepreneurs, improving access to information, and fostering innovation, all of which are essential for economic transformation. There is a resurgence of cultural pride and a revaluation of African heritage and identity. This cultural renaissance is fostering a sense of unity and purpose, driving efforts to reclaim and redefine Africa's place in the world. So soon, the African nations will prove they are not poor, but were simply exploited. Do you think Africa is changing and growing? Have you witnessed change? Is it because of the new leaders? Let us know in the comments section. Do you think the locals have woken up to change? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.